Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Solopreneur Summit 2023. So this event was idealized for solo entrepreneurs in their first 0 to 5 years of business. We've put together everything you need to know to be a successful solo entrepreneur. And today I am here with a team of experts to talk about how to turn every loss into a lesson. So entrepreneurship is full of unexpected things. But one thing that I feel like we have for certain is that it's going to come with a lot of misadventures, a lot of failures, mistakes, setbacks, things that we do not expect but will happen. So the purpose of this session is how to develop a mindset for success and for growth, to keep going even when times are rough, even when you are thinking about giving up when you are a solo founder. So I am joined here. Let me introduce the amazing team of experts with me by Christina Langdon. She is a founder helping CEOs and founders to scale their companies by scaling their brains. Christina, maybe you want to introduce a little bit about yourself?
Hi there. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I spent nearly 30 years working for big name media brands like Martha Stewart. I worked for her for 20 years. And I also worked for the media innovation company called Fast Company. And I now help high achievers and people in the C-suite and solopreneurs scale their businesses by first scaling their brain.
That's amazing. We were just talking about the association of brain and business just before the session. That's great. We also have John Lynn, who's a CEO and solo the past 7 years. If you can introduce a bit about yourself, John.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is John Lynn. I am the CEO and co-founder of Sella Innovation. Sella builds startup accelerators. So we bring together high growth venture-backed entrepreneurs and give them the support and community, curriculum, and connection that they need to reach the next stage of their business. So we've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs over these years and are entrepreneurs ourselves. So excited to share.
A lot of experience in this team, right? And we also have Teresa, director and speaker.
Hi, how you doing? So I'm Teresa, and I work with small business owners from all around the world, and I help them create what they see as their dream business in their life. So this isn't just kind of some line that they get to sit on a beach and earn money. This is like what is important to them and what do they want to create in their business. So we support them through all kind of marketing and business tools and tactics, as well as working on the whole mindset side, which really is the key to creating their dream business.
All right, super excited to be here with you all. To everyone who's watching us on YouTube Live, feel free to drop in your questions in the chat. I'm going to read them to our speakers today. And the first question that I have to all of you, and feel free to answer it, right? Anyone who want to go first is, can you share a personal experience of a loss that you experienced as a solopreneur? And how did you turn that loss into a learning experience in your journey? Who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first. I'm more than happy to. So when I thought about you asking this question, I thought I could like literally pick a million things, because that is the truth. In this business journey as an entrepreneur, lots of things go wrong, lots of things fail, and turning that into a learning experience is so very important. So for me, one of the key things that happened was I had coached and worked with people and consulted for people to create online businesses. I knew everything you needed to do. I had got all the marketing strategies and the tools and the tactics. And it came to the point where I decided I want to do it myself. And I created a course and I got it all ready and I sat on it for an entire 12 months. And I came up with every excuse under the sun. It wasn't ready. It wasn't the right time. I didn't like this. I wanted to change this. And basically, I worked with a coach who discovered that it was because I was scared of failing. And they completely blew me over when they asked me how many I'd sold. And I said, well, none. I haven't actually launched it. And he said, well, you've failed already then, haven't you? And that was the point that I learned that mindset was everything, and I could have the best tools and tactics and strategies in the world, but if I was too scared to put it out there, it was never going to happen. So for me, that was the moment where it was like, this is where the mindset thing comes in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. Like, it doesn't matter if you have like all the tools available. If you're too afraid to even try, it's not gonna happen. And sincerely, it's like, it doesn't matter the industry that you're on. If you are a solopreneur or not, you're gonna fail eventually. So having this growth mindset is really important. Now, what about you, Christina? Have you experienced something like that?
Oh, just as Teresa said, I think there's more failure than not in being a solo entrepreneur. We're kind of failing every day. We're failing forward, and that's what we want to do. I think one of the biggest failures I had, only in terms of how it hurt my heart, was I worked for a very big client early on in my solopreneur journey. And I was very proud to be associated with this company. It was sort of a dream client. And I worked hard for them. I did a lot for them. I went out of scope for them. I was up nights for them. I was on call for them. And what I learned was that while I'd taken this prestigious client, that it was a complete failure. It was running me ragged. And I learned that the best clients that look like they're the best maybe aren't the best clients. So what I really understood was that I didn't want to ever work for a client like that again. I knew that at a certain size, I love to get into the weeds with my clients. And when they get to a certain size, when they get too corporate, that's not where I want to play. That's not who I want to play with. So I learned who my best client is from learning who my worst client was.
I love that. And it's such a valuable insight. I'm sure that after that experience, you had like different boundary settings and different, the way that you related to other clients. Now, what about you, John?
Sure. And I'll echo Christina and Teresa in saying, the experience of entrepreneurship, solo or not, is just a continuous failure process. And so there are many of these stories I think we could all tell. And I'm sure many of you in the audience that are starting a business have already experienced some of this yourself. For me, what comes to mind is, and I started the first version of this company about 8 years ago with my boss at the time. He had hired me to run an accelerator in New York. We got an opportunity to build an accelerator for Verizon. And while we were setting up that company together, we started a nonprofit. And the nonprofit was sort of an industry association for accelerator professionals, people that build startup accelerators like us, our peers and our competitors. The organization, the nonprofit, actually became more successful than the for-profit, which nobody expected because they had put me in as the chairman. At that time, I was 28 years old. And by the end of that year, everybody kind of wanted to be on the board. A group of us felt like the team that had gotten the organization its success should stay there. And so I was voted out from the chairman position by a group of my peers in the industry, including my boss and co-founder at the time. So that partnership didn't work out. The business failed. We lost Verizon, and I lost a lot of my connections in the industry. I didn't learn a lot at that point, but I went ahead and I created a competing organization, which then became successful the next year. And I guess the learning there is that you've got all the resources you need to be successful at any point, even when you feel like you've lost them all.
Yes, the truth is you never know what can happen in your entrepreneurial journey, right? And that leads me to get like to our $1 million question of the afternoon, which is, how do you develop a growth mindset as a solopreneur? Specifically, like what strategies have helped you stay resilient in the face of challenges? I think maybe Christina can kick off that one.
It's a little bit like what Teresa was saying earlier. I really, we're going to fail. You're going to fail every single day. We need to be failing. We need to be failing forward, because every time we fail, we learn something that we can carry into our next success. Where we get into trouble is when we make it about our self-worth. And the minute it becomes so personal, then it's going to be very hard to break through those clouds to get done with what the learnings are to help us advance and grow. So recognizing that your business is not about you personally, it's your business. And when you start to make decisions for yourself from your CEO chair, that's best for the business and not best for your feelings and making it about you personally, when you can separate the two, then you can get on to building more wins instead of fails. When we look about a growth mindset or a scarcity mindset, the first thing you really want to do is think about the scarcity mindset. Like, what are all those things that are keeping me small, thinking small? Because when we're thinking small, we are making small decisions about our future. To get to a growth mindset, you really want to be thinking big about your future, thinking about creating your future, deciding who you want to become ahead of time, so then you can start creating and making decisions today from that place.
Yeah, that's a great advice. I hope you all are taking notes here because a lot of valuable insights are coming on. Now, what about you, Teresa?
So yeah, I was thinking about this in terms of, like you said, the growth mindset and the scarcity mindset. Such good points there. For me, one of the things that I do, which is a really practical thing, but I talk about being the scientist and not the judge. So when we approach something, if we have not done the work on our mindset, sometimes we approach it as the judge. We approach it from a, why did you do that? Blaming yourself, putting shame on yourself, really kind of beating yourself around the head. Whereas if we approach things from a scientist point of view, then instead of going, I can't believe you did that, we go, why did you do that? Or that was interesting. Why did that happen? And I think the one thing that I've learned through the years of being in business is to have that empathy and that kind of approaching it through kindness point of view. So we are all showing up, and if you're watching this now, like, you're flipping amazing. You're absolutely amazing. You run a business. That is phenomenal. And lots of people in this world won't do that because it's such hard work and it's a risk and it's all those things that we know when we run a business. So you should be patting yourself on the back every single day. So coming from a kind of empathy point of view, I think really helps in terms of, do you know what? You're doing the best you can. You tried really hard. It didn't work. What can we do differently? How can we change it? So for me, be the scientist, not the judge.
I love that. I'm going like this to myself right now.
Teresa. High five yourself.
Yeah, that's some great advice. It's really, really good to look in the mirror or look at the past things you've done and be proud of yourself. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy thing, right? What about you, John?
Yeah, I mean, both the answers that just came before me are great ones that I agree with fully. I don't know if I have too much to add to them. I think I would say, tagging a little bit onto the pat yourself on the back piece, one of the best things that you can do as you go through the experience is to lean into the parts of being a solopreneur that energize you. Mm-hmm. And if you're finding yourself getting more energy or having more fun in certain parts of it, to lean into those parts of it at the expense of others. If you don't have the energy, if you're not fulfilling yourself in doing this work day to day, then that is the key to failing long term. That is what will stop you dead in your tracks at some point. Mm-hmm. But if you keep the tank full, if you keep enjoying what you're doing, then you will find the way forward. The other thing that I would say as far as mindset is being solution oriented. And maybe this is part of what Teresa meant by the scientist piece. Mm. Your problems don't dominate you. There's a solution as long as you believe there is one. And if you think hard about it enough, or if you ask enough people for help, it'll find you.
So one thing that I'm picking up here as we're talking about looking at what you've done and analyzing your fears, also your energy, is the role of self-awareness when you're conducting a business, when you're conducting your entrepreneurial journey. And the question I have for you now is, what role does self-awareness play in this process of taking losses and creating lessons? How can solopreneurs develop a greater sense of self-awareness to help them learn from their losses and also to, in the future, make better and more aligned decisions? Maybe we can kickstart with John this time.
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that that's something you can do with intention. I think this process is going to make you more self-aware wherever you are at in that spectrum. And so your task is to be ready and open for that feedback from the universe as you go about this work.
So at the end of the day, as Teresa said, it's a lot about being the scientist, experimenting and going ahead and trying out things. Right, Teresa? What do you think?
100%. And honestly, I don't think I've been ever so self-aware as I am now. And I think that's where the empathy comes from, is understanding yourself better. And funnily enough, I did some training this afternoon with some of my members around the Enneagram and what the Enneagram does. And we talked about my passion for personal development. And for me, it's the more we can understand ourselves, the more we become aware of ourselves, the more we can forgive ourselves, and the more we can go, oh, that's interesting. That's why I do this. So I think for me, it's definitely been a practice. It's definitely been something that I've had to work on. But some of the things that have really helped are things like journaling. Like sometimes it's not as easy to be as self-aware in the moment, and especially if you're just starting this out. So giving yourself space, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, whatever it is that you like, to actually go, that was interesting. Why did I do that? Is there a different way I could have done that? Like, why did I show up that way? Or why did I behave that way? And again, not coming from judgment, not coming from criticism, just coming from, this is interesting. Why is that the case?
Journaling is such a great advice, by the way. I've been seeing a lot of entrepreneurs doing this lately, and yeah, it's such a great way to analyze how you're feeling, how you're going about things. What do you think about this, Christina?
I mean, so much good stuff here. Teresa said, be the scientist, not the judge. And I typically work with clients to become more self-aware. Part of what I work with them to do is writing down, just like the scientist thinking, is what worked today, what didn't work today, and what would I do differently? When we do this regularly with intention, consistency, and discipline, we start becoming more and more aware. Oftentimes we become more and more aware of the things that we're doing over and over again that aren't serving us. And the minute we start to recognize a pattern like that, we become aware of it, we can then start to change it from there. I am a big advocate of journaling. When you think about like an Ariana Huffington, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, they all have one thing in common. Of course, money would be one of them. But the other thing is that they all journal. And journal for some people is like a 4-letter word. And if you don't like it, that's okay. Just putting your thoughts down on paper every single morning or evening before you go to bed, recognizing what is working, what isn't working, what do I want to do differently, and then how do I want to show up from a place of who I want to become. That's when you can start showing up, feeling more confident about your business.
And I feel, go ahead, Teresa.
No, I was just going to say they were great questions. And actually, one thing that's really interesting when people start journaling, and when I've kind of done training on this, they're like, what do I write? And sometimes they need that structure to begin with, to go, well, ask yourself these questions, which are brilliant questions to ask. And I think, I don't know about you, but the more I've journaled, the quicker I've caught it. And it's all about catching it quicker, that self-awareness, to the point where I've been able to do it in the moment and change it like that, which was just the most powerful and amazing thing ever, which I high-fived myself on for days.
Patting yourself on the back, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tag on one little thing, because once you learn and become aware, like we're talking about, then you can reset quicker. Once you become more and more aware, how we do it is we can do it through the journaling, we can do it through our thinking and answering those questions. And as Teresa said, once you see it, you can pivot quicker. You can change faster. So when you think about failing, if you're doing this as a practice, then you're catching your, let's say, detours. Instead of failures, they become detours, and you're catching them quicker.
Love that.
Yeah. And one thing I love about journaling is the fact that it's not always about like the thing they're going to experience in the future. It's the main purpose is about what you're doing right now. So it's not about that goal in 5-10 years from now. It's right now. So I feel like self-awareness is a lot about focusing on the now. And like, if you're lucky with this practice of journaling, if self-awareness, you might find common mistakes that you do, just like the research, like identifying your patterns, identifying your things that you do with some tendency. So my next question is actually exactly about that. What are some common mistakes that solopreneurs make when they're dealing with failures? And how can they avoid these mistakes and move forward more effectively? Who would like to go first on this one?
I don't mind going first again. I talk for Britain. This is my problem. So one of the things when I was thinking about this question was the first mistake they make is thinking they failed. And perhaps judging someone else's success compared to theirs and assuming because they didn't have the same, they failed. So I have had so many people come on calls with me or coaching with me, and they're gone, that went terribly. And I've said to them, how did it go? Tell me the numbers. What was it? And then when I say to them, well, actually, that was pretty good because the average is this, they were blown away. So I think that's the first problem, is that they actually think they failed, or they think something's gone terribly wrong when actually it really hasn't. So even just having the ability to have that conversation with someone like a coach, or like someone in your world, or if you're a part of a membership or something, and them actually going, well, that happened to me, or actually, I think that's a pretty good outcome. I think that's the first mistake that they make.
What about you, Christina?
Who wants to go? Compare and despair is awful. I mean, we all get into it. And when we do, it's taking our mind off of us and our businesses. And so I said earlier, we have to define what success looks like for ourselves and stay in our own lane. And oftentimes we say, well, I want to be successful when we're going out, and we want to say success is millions and millions of dollars, but we don't really define it. Defining success and defining who we want to become is really the first step towards being able to become it. I oftentimes think that when we're coming from a place of scarcity, we're coming from a place of preventing failure. Oftentimes when we're new businesses and solo entrepreneurs, we are protecting ourselves from failure. And when we do, we prevent ourselves from playing bigger. We're actually holding ourselves back. So I'm a big believer in problem solving. And I think Teresa just said, you get a coach, you get somebody to help you co-pilot your success so that you can keep going without it being something that may be just holding you back.
I just gotta highlight that I feel like comparison is just such a killer of joy and excitement. Like trying to compare yourself with someone who has been in this journey for 20 years, and then you're just starting out this month, expecting to get there. There's a whole path. What do you think about this, John?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes is over-indexing for avoiding mistakes.
Yeah.
These failures are efficient. You learn what can go wrong without your client relationship breaking, without your technology breaking, without your team breaking, without you breaking. And making these mistakes is a way that you find out what those boundaries, constraints, and limitations are to your business. So in a way, trying to avoid them is actually a disservice. And the challenge, I think, is getting comfortable with seeing that failure process as something to invest in and accept.
And one key step to do that, in my view, would be really trying to see those mistakes and those failures as lessons, like trying to change your own mindset. That's the purpose of this talk, right? Into a positive thing, because I failed and that's good because I've learned this and that and that. And now I keep thinking, like, how can you stay motivated and focused when you face those setbacks and those failures? And what advice you can give to solopreneurs struggling to stay on their track? Maybe this time John can kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think my short answer is you can't. You will need other people to do that. And especially as a solopreneur, having a strong support system of people, not just people that care about you as like a family member or a friend, but that believe in what you're doing and your ability to do it, because those are not always the same people. Are the ones that you can go to when you have a problem that you're scared of, or when something unexpected happens, or when it feels like the game is over. When you get to those moments, it's too late to find those people. You need to find them now and make sure they're there so that they can help when you need it.
Totally agree. Success is not a solo endeavor, particularly for solo entrepreneurs. That word solo entrepreneur is one, right? And you can't get there by yourself. You have got to get a good support system around you that can call you on your stuff, can call you on that maybe comparison and despair, right? We have to think about staying motivated, and staying motivated is going to be one of the hardest things you do. Life is 50-50, 50 good, 50 bad. So we're going to be in the bad a lot of the time. We're going to have high value cycles. We're going to have low value cycles. So how do I maintain motivation, maintain what I want to achieve my goals. It really becomes from being very disciplined about what you do in your business. How are you showing up in your business, no matter what? How many times a week? Making that a routine will keep you on your path to your success, even when you hit that low value cycle. And when you become aware and you're journaling about it, then those low value cycles, the lack of momentum cycles, they'll end up becoming shorter and shorter the more you become aware. And always reach out for help. Asking for help and vulnerability is the more vulnerable you can be as a solo entrepreneur, the faster you're going to scale your business.
Love that. Yeah. And I agree with everything that both of them have said. I think the having that support network with you, but also knowing, and it's so right what Christine said, it's not all going to be rainbows. It's not all going to be amazing. And there's nothing wrong that some days you're going to wake up and you're not going to be motivated and you don't want to do it. And you do feel fed up and you are annoyed and it is frustrating you. You just don't want to stay there very long. Like, that's the thing. And I think that's where having a support network around you, and as much as it's amazing that I have a very supportive partner and that, you know, you might have an amazing parents who love what you do, it's not quite the same. Like, having either a coach or having a mentor or having a group of people who are going through the thing that you're going through, those are the type of people you need, rather than, you know, that my husband sort of says, oh, you know, tomorrow will be a better day. It doesn't quite work like that. But knowing that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, it is going to be hard, but don't stay there too long. And I love the routine thing. I love the, okay, we start again tomorrow. We'd start afresh then. So yeah, I love what they both said.
I absolutely love this. And having one day where you wake up and you don't want to do it doesn't mean that you're going to feel like that forever, or that all is lost, or that your company is a failure. No, just one day, just like Christina said, just one cycle. There will be other cycles, other things will happen. But okay, so we're on the same page about this. Failures will happen, and having a support system is essential. But how do you get to a support system? Which actionable steps can you do to actually cultivate that support system in person, but also online? What do you think?
Can I jump on this one?
Of course.
Support others.
Yes.
If you get real good at getting others to share with you what their problems are and contribute to their solutions, you know what good support looks like when you need it. It's a skill in and of itself, just like being a great executive or a great salesperson or a great programmer. And especially, I think, as someone who's building a business, like, you know, your key challenge every day is building the right relationships and building them well. So finding ways to help others is going to make you a better leader, better manager, but it's also going to help you understand what good support looks like to you.
Yeah. I think with what John said as well, it comes back to that element of vulnerability. You can't be in a position where you can get that support if you're not being vulnerable. So, and also if you're not comfortable being vulnerable. So if you have joined a network or you've got a coach or whatever it might be, and you don't feel that you can be vulnerable enough, it's the wrong place for you. So you've got to be able to show up, and they should be there to cheer you on when things are going brilliantly, but also to pick you up when you are having those hard days and when you don't want to do it anymore and you're totally fed up and, you know, someone said no or whatever it might be. But the only way you're going to be able to get that support is if you are vulnerable enough to go, this is where I am right now. And I think with those people being vulnerable back to you, you know that that's a safe space and you can do that. So I think that for me is one of the crucial things.
I'll tag on just quickly to say that, you know, I totally agree with what John said in terms of you've got to give to get. And so if you want to get support, you have to make sure that you're there to support first. And you also want to be really careful about the rooms you're in. You want to be in rooms where you can see like-minded selves, like people that are just like yourself, but you also want to be in rooms with people who are maybe more advanced than you are, not to compare and despair, but to see how they're doing it.
Yeah, those are great advices. I love how we kickstarted this question with support others, period. And that's like the great advice from building this connection, this network. So I'm going to have like one quick question for this session. Last one. If you could come back to yourself in the past when you were starting this entrepreneurial session, What advice would you give to yourself?
I'll go. I'm the old one here. I'm the OG here. I have learned a lot. And if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would tell her it's going to be all right. And I would tell her to play so much bigger. I wish I had played bigger. I wish I had been more confident. I mean, we struggle with confidence so much in our careers. And confidence is not competency. If I had leaned on my competency and if I had saw that my competency, my skills, my capabilities, and my smarts was really the beacon that I needed to follow. Instead, I was trying to follow my confidence, and confidence is a feeling. It's not an evidence. It's not a fact. It is not evidence of competency. So I would have told myself to be more confident and play so much bigger.
I love that. That's so good. I think for me, it would be that don't necessarily believe everything you see. I think tagging on to the playing bigger, I think I looked at a lot of people who were seriously further on in their journey than me and just thought, like, I've got to do it their way, or I've got to show up a certain way, or they're successful because they did this thing. And I almost tried to mimic them and what they did and their success instead of standing fully in who I am and what I do and what I want and what's important to me, and having that courage to do that, really, and to go, yeah, I think that you've got it all sussed out. You absolutely have not. No one has. Yes, they might be further on in the journey, but they do not have everything sussed out. It is not as perfect as they're making out. And just to kind of take that as knowledge and go, these failures are okay. It's okay if things don't go well. And just because other people don't show it doesn't mean that they're not experiencing the same thing. So therefore, don't look at them and think, well, because I haven't achieved it like you have, then I might as well just give up. So yeah, I think that's what I would say to myself.
It's a super crunchy question, very difficult to think about and feel through. And even to be vulnerable and answering. I think I am thankful to my past self, and he made a huge sacrifice for me to be doing the work that I'm doing. So I'd say thank you. And then I would also say, you're not doing the wrong thing here. You believe in this and you're going to make it work. So don't have a doubt about that. Don't feel bad about that.
Love that, John.
Yes, I absolutely love what all of you said. That's an amazing. Yeah, pat on the back, please. Yes, be proud of what you've done. So one last thing, if people want to connect with you on social media, where they can find you? Maybe we can start by Christina.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Christina Langdon Cranley, and you can find me on Instagram at Christina Langdon Boss Lady.
Great. What about Teresa?
I'm on everything, but Instagram is my favorite. That's where I hang out the most. So if you just search Teresa Heath-Waring, you will find me. That's
amazing. And John?
LinkedIn is my jam. So it's just John Lynn on LinkedIn. And fun fact about me is if you email me, I will respond and help if I can. Email is jfl@sellainnovation.com.
That's amazing. Love how everyone's supporting each other. All right. So thank you so much who have been in the session with us. This was an amazing time. Thank you so much for the three of our amazing speakers today.